Hello guys, I am Roranoa TV. This video is about what if Gohan was in My Hero Academia, Part 2. Please subscribe, like and share Roranoa TV for more fanfiction crossover stories. Let's get started. I've trained you as best as I could given the circumstances and the limited time we have, Piccolo said, but you're not finished yet. Gohan stood before him in Nail, his red cape flowing with the wind. I understand, he said. What's our next move? Piccolo smiled and closed his eyes. UA High. They have the facilities and staff to help finish your training. Unfortunately, I can only lay the foundation for your training, but the rest is up to you. I need you to keep getting stronger until you fully master your quirk. I know that what I'm asking of you won't be easy. Only the best of the best make it into UA. But I have faith in you and in your abilities, Gohan. You have what it takes to go beyond. Piccolo turned to face away from him. And then there's All Might, he said. He is teaching at UA this year. As the last person to see your father alive, I'm sure he can shed light into what exactly happened that night all those years ago. Right, Gohan said. He thought back on the picture that the mysterious third party had sent him while he was in the hospital. All Might had clearly been close to his father. Piccolo was right. If anyone could tell him exactly what had happened that night, it would be him. There's a written and physical entrance exam you have to take, Piccolo was saying. So I want you to go back to Namek and rest there for the next 3 weeks and gather your energy for the exams. But if we're going back to the city, though, you can't be seen in that getup, Nail said. Why? What's wrong with it? Gohan looked down at his costume. It's very clearly a hero costume. You might as well parade around in a police officer or military uniform. Pro heroes are licensed and carry a certain degree of authority. Obviously, you aren't licensed yet and you'll only draw attention to yourself. But don't worry, I have just the thing for you. Hold still. Nail raised his hand at Gohan and a glowing power emanated from him, enveloping Gohan with wind and light. There's a reason why Goku never wore that hero costume, Piccolo said. It was too flashy, drew too much attention. Instead, he always wore his training GI to honor his martial arts master. That's why we think it's only appropriate if you do the same. The light dissipated and Gohan's hero costume was gone, replaced by sleeveless purple Namekian GI. A light blue sash held the GI together above his waist, along with matching blue wrist wraps, a weighted white scarf around his neck and his long hair was wrapped and tucked neatly behind a white Namekian hachimaki. When we were young, this symbol terrorized all who came across it. They called us the Demon Clan. But under you, this symbol will carry a new meaning. The world will come to see it as a symbol of hope and peace. Gohan looked down at the symbol engraved on the top left side of the robes. You're one of us now, Gohan, Nail said and Piccolo smirked proudly. Welcome to the Dragon Clan. Gohan looked up proudly at them. I promise, I will become the greatest hero in the world, and from now on the symbol of the Dragon Clan will be the symbol of a hero. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. And don't worry, your hero costume will be waiting for you back in Namek City. We'll have it ready for when you make it into UA. And speaking of Namek, we're preparing a place in Papaya Island for you to work from while you're attending school. It's a 3-hour commute from UA, but with your quirk, the distance won't be an issue. I can't thank you enough, Gohan said. I won't let you down. The rushing wind pushed Gohan's hair back as he and Nail soared across the vast Dagobah Sea, heading back towards Musutafu. As they flew over the water, his memories crept back to the training he'd endured the past few months. Just a few weeks before leaving Mount Paozu, Piccolo had taken Gohan to see the old farm that had belonged to his parents. The farmer who owned it now was very friendly and had let him stick around for dinner as the two talked about the harvest. Seeing the farm again had made Gohan long for the family he had lost. Goten and Mom, I messed up, but I'll find a way to make it up to you. I swear it. I will become someone you can be proud of. Hey Nail, Gohan said. Nail flew closer, his hands tucked inside his blue tunic. Yeah, what is it? He asked, his antennae swayed with the wind. You go on ahead back to Namek. There's some business I have to take care of in Musutafu first. Plus, I'm getting hungry again. Seriously? You just ate, you glutton. Nail shook his head in sarcastic disapproval. Alright, fine. Just head back to Papaya Island when you're ready. Piccolo should be back by then. Miss Pizza will be picking him up in a few hours in the company jet. He has a jet? Gohan groaned incredulously. And he still made me swim all the way to Mount Paozu? Nail chuckled. Yes, Piccolo likes to make his training incredibly difficult, but it was intended to see your resolve, as well as to test the limits of your strength, and, well, look at you go now. You're a far cry from that defenseless boy I met back at Advance last year. I'm certain that getting into UA won't be a problem for you. Up ahead, the glow of the city lit up the evening sky. Musutafu, home. Well, be careful, kid. Here, take this. What is it? Piccolo wanted you to have it. It's a money card, for any expenses you might run into. Just make sure to use it wisely. Anyway, see you in Namek, Nail told him as he peeled away and shot off alongside the coast of Dagobah Beach. The vast city that had once been an absolute maze to Gohan before seemed so much smaller from here. Gohan slowed his flight as he got close to his apartment building and hovered above it for a moment. What am I even going to say? Gohan felt his stomach tighten. He missed his mother and brother dearly, but would they even welcome him back after everything that had happened? Gohan thought back to the haunted way his mother looked at him that night, as if he were some sort of monster. No, he had to apologize and explain things to his mother. She and Goten were the only family he had left. He had to try. Gohan floated down to the ground in the alley behind the apartments. He breathed in a heavy sigh and let it out as he walked up to his apartment door. But there was something off about the small patio that led to the door. His mother's garden was gone, replaced by ugly sculptures of puppies and rocks. Goten's bicycle, as well as his mother's potted flowers, were missing, too. With a sinking knot in his stomach, Gohan walked up to the door and knocked 3 times. His fear was confirmed when an elderly woman answered the door, a pack of small dogs barking up at the stranger at their doorstep. Gohan recognized her as the elderly lady from the 3rd floor. Obviously, she was now living in his old apartment on the ground floor. The old lady looked up and down at Gohan suspiciously before recognition washed over her face. "Gokun," she said. "How nice to see you again." "Hi there, Mrs. Koinu," Gohan said with a brief, courteous bow. "I'm sorry for the intrusion. I'm looking for my mother. Is she here?" "Oh, you didn't know? I'm really sorry to tell you the bad news, son, but she moved out of here about 3 months ago." "She moved out?" Gohan's heart dropped to his stomach. "Do you know where she might have gone?" "She wouldn't say. All I know is that she couldn't find work, so she took her little one and left town. I'm really sorry." "You wouldn't happen to have any way of contacting her, would you?" "No, I'm afraid not," Mrs. Koinu said. "I wish there was more I could do to help, but that's all I know." Gohan gulped and nodded, thanking the elderly woman anyway, and walked away. Where could she have gone? Through the years and trials, Gohan had always been the pillar of support for his mother, and the thought of her out there somewhere without any help or support made Gohan's heart break all over again. Gohan looked off into the distance. "I will find you again, Mom. I will make you proud of me again." A cooling breeze had settled over the night sky. The evening had fully set in and brought along a cold breeze from the ocean with it. Gohan closed his eyes, clearing his mind, the way Piccolo had taught him to. "Clear your mind, focus, and you will find your way," Piccolo had told him. The breeze picked up around him, tugging gently at his clothes. Gohan enjoyed it, relaxing his breathing, and a sensation of peace flooded through him, calming his anxiety and giving way to clarity. Although his heart ached to see his mother again, there would be very little that he could do to help her now, anyway. Even if he did find her. Then what? Gohan was sure that Piccolo would welcome Chi-Chi and Goten into Papaya Island with open arms, but deep down, Gohan knew that Chi-Chi would never agree to that idea. So for now, Gohan decided to stick to the plan. Becoming a hero would do more than just answer the mysteries of his life. Once he obtained his hero license, he could provide a better life for his mother and brother. That's the path he needed to take to truly make a difference in their lives. With his path set before him, Gohan opened his eyes, and decided to head back to Namek for now. A movement from the corner of his eye caught his attention. At first, Gohan thought it was the shadows of the city playing tricks on him, but the shadow moved again. Gohan stepped back to get a better look at the moving object. Standing on the 4th floor of the apartment building was a girl who was struggling to pull herself up the roof. What on earth is that girl doing? Gohan thought to himself as he observed her bizarre behavior. The girl held her arms up, balancing herself as she walked to the edge of the building. Her hair swayed with the evening breeze, uncovering her eyes. Her head hung low, shoulders slumped, like a lost puppy. There was an intense look of pain in the girl's closed eyes as she took a step forward into nothing. Gohan's eyes widened when he suddenly realized what was happening. Hey, stop. Don't do it. Gohan held his hand up, running to stop the girl. But it was too late. Pushing herself off of the ledge, the girl jumped from the top of the building. Without thinking, Gohan propelled himself upward into flight, catching the girl's tiny frame in his arms. "I've got you," Gohan said reassuringly, flying up into the sky. "Just hang on." The girl's large brown eyes opened, confused. "What? Who are you? What's going on?" "I'm saving your life," Gohan replied as he started his slow descent back down to the top floor of the apartments. "Look, I get it. Life is full of problems, but you can't solve them by ending your life. Think about how that will make your loved ones feel." The girl blinked twice, confused. Suddenly she burst into laughter. "What's so funny?" Gohan was genuinely confused. Had this girl completely lost her mind? I'm not ending anything, silly, the girl said with a wide smile. I'm training my quirk. Watch. To Gohan's horror, the girl jumped off the building again. No, wait. But the girl didn't fall. With her eyes closed in concentration, she floated in midair, holding her fingertips close together. Clumsily, she floated back to the stairs where Gohan stared in awe. And release, she said, breathlessly. Small beads of sweat had formed on her forehead. See? She said happily. Nothing to worry about. Sorry if I made you worry, but it was really sweet that you tried to save me. Wow, Gohan smiled back. So you can fly, too. Well, it's not exactly flying, the girl said, tapping her finger under her chin. My quirk is zero gravity. I can make anything float with a touch of my fingertips. So I've been trying it on myself. That's a cool quirk to have, miss. Just be careful not to get hurt. Okay, I'll keep that in mind, and again, sorry for scaring you, the girl bowed apologetically. My name is Ochako Uraraka. What's yours? Gohan, he smiled. Just Gohan. Nice to meet you, Gohan, she said. Do you live here, too? I just moved in a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't seen you around. I used to live here, he said, but that was a while ago. The conversation was interrupted abruptly when the smell of fresh takoyaki filled the air. Some things never change. Gohan licked his lips, the smell bringing back some memories. His stomach growled loudly and he calmed it down with a pat on his abdomen. Have you tried Mrs. Yakemono's famous takoyaki balls? He asked Ochako. Yes, they're divine, she said, imagining the taste of the delicious food. My parents and I stumbled across it when we were hunting for apartments to rent here. It's one of this town's best kept secrets, Gohan said. Come on, I'll treat you. Well, she looked away, unsure. I've never actually gone anywhere alone with a boy before. But Uraraka couldn't bring herself to tell him that. After all, the guy had just tried to save her life. If he had any nefarious intentions, he could have taken advantage of her earlier when she was in his arms. In his big, strong arms. Ochako's cheeks burned for an instant, and she slapped them back to normal. The wind blew again, bringing the smell of the takoyaki again, and this time it was Ochacho's stomach that roared. Okay, let's do it, she said. Great, I'm famished. The takoyaki stand was modest and almost hidden from the street view. Gohan held the tarp entrance open and Uraraka ducked inside, taking a seat at the corner of the bar. Ochako-chan, sweetheart. Mrs. Yakemono emerged from the kitchen. It's so nice of you to stop by, and with a boy, no less. Hi. Ochako greeted her with a shy smile. It's really good to see you, again, Mrs. Yakemono, Gohan said cheerfully. It's been way too long since I've had those amazing takoyaki balls. Mrs. Yakemono stopped in her tracks. That voice, she said. She turned and took a closer look at the young man sitting next to Ochako. Son Gohan, is that you? That's right, Gohan said cheerfully. You have no idea how badly I missed your cooking. I'm starving for it. Just one moment, Mrs. Yakemono said with a smile. She quickly ran to the back of the kitchen. Fire up everything you've got, she shouted at the cooks. The bottomless pit has returned. Bottomless pit. Ochako lifted her eyebrow quizzically. I wonder what she means by that. Gohan laughed nervously and brushed his hair back. Well, 1 hour later, oh, that's why, Ochako muttered under her breath, staring at the dozen dirty dishes that were stacked precariously at the edge of the table. Gohan finished his last dish and added it to the pile, finally putting his spoon in with the rest of the dishes. I'm stuffed. You're not going to eat any more? He asked her. Ochako shook her head. No, thanks, I'm full, too. Mrs. Yakemono, do you have some takeout boxes for the rest of this food, please? My, you have quite the appetite, don't you? Ochako said as the food was packed. You have no idea, Mrs. Yakemono grumbled, packing up the excess food. You were paying this time, right Gohan? Gohan gave her a childlike grin. Of course, how much do I owe you? 75,000 yen, Ochako yelled, collapsing to the floor when she saw the bill. That's more than the monthly rent on my apartment. Gohan walked down the road towards Ochako's apartment, carrying 2 bags of packed food. Did you enjoy your meal? Gohan asks. Mrs. Yakemono's is the best, isn't it? Yes, I'm stuffed. Ochako patted her slightly enlarged belly. It's been a while since I've been this full. Thank you so much. So, what are you doing out here in the city by yourself, anyway? Gohan asked her. Same thing as everybody else is this time of year, she said. I'm here for the UA entrance exams in a few weeks. But we live so far away, so my parents rented out an apartment so I won't have to commute too far. That's awesome, Gohan said. Your parents sound really great. They are, Ochako nodded. They're really supportive of my dream of becoming a pro hero. I don't want to let them down, because they've sacrificed so much to give me this opportunity, but if I'm being honest, sometimes I question myself because of my quirk. Why? Gohan asked. What about it? Well, it's not exactly anything flashy or powerful. Whenever I overuse it, I totally hurl. And there's a limit to how much I can lift. So sometimes, I feel like it's, I dunno, kinda boring. It's not boring, Gohan said. Your quirk is amazing. And so what if your quirk has a limit? Limits are meant to be broken, right? Well, at least you've got that Uwa spirit, Gohan, Ochako smiled, plus ultra, right? Gohan turned to say something, but the expression dropped. Gohan, what is it? Get behind me, he said, holding her back with an extended arm as 5 thugs came out of the dark alley. Wow, 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 what do we have here? This must be our lucky night, one of them said. The 5 thugs encircled Ochako and Gohan. Alright, kid, don't try to be a hero. We'll be taking the food, and the girl. We're not looking for trouble, Gohan said, his voice dropping to a purr. We're just trying to get home. There's plenty of girls you can find in the South District. Just leave us alone, or else. Do you hear this, little punk? One of the thugs scoffed. Trying to act tough in front of his little girlfriend? Don't you know that it's dangerous around here at this hour? Gohan felt Ochako's terrified grip on the back of his GI. Gohan, she whispered. The fear in her voice sent shocks of adrenaline and anger to his gut. Last chance, he said. Just leave and this won't have to get physical. The thugs laughed. Just in case you didn't realize, you're outnumbered 5-1, you little brat. Wait a minute, I recognize that GI. That's the sigil of that old demon clan, isn't it? Didn't anyone tell you that the old clan died out 7 years ago? Who are you trying to scare, huh? A knife suddenly launched at Gohan. Gohan, Ochako screamed. The blade stopped within inches of Gohan's neck. Gohan's eyes narrowed as he stared at the quaking hand that held it, caught in his iron grip. It's not the demon clan anymore, he said with venom in his voice. It's the dragon clan. He kicked the thug so hard he flew against the wall and crumbled to the floor, not getting back up. Get him. As the thugs jumped at him, Gohan became a furious blur. He ducked and rolled under a swinging bat and came up high with an uppercut that knocked out another thug. He landed and reversed, only to see 2 of the remaining 3 thugs floating in the air. Ochako held her palms together deep in concentration as the thugs cried and flailed uselessly in suspended gravity. Gohan took off and leapt into a mighty kick, dropping all of his weight to the center of his left foot. His boot connected with the bat-wielding thug and sent him flying away. With that same momentum, he wrapped his legs around the third man and brought him down face first into the pavement. The landing cratered the sidewalk and the man slumped down next to other guys. He's a demon. The bat-wielder yelled, picking himself up and running away. Demon, my ass, the last one barked, pulling out a gun from his hip. Too bad, kid, now you're gonna die. Gohan. Ochako yelled as the thug grabbed her and fired off several shots at Gohan. But Gohan stood his ground. His hand was a blur, catching all of the bullets and crushing them in his hand. I hate guns. Gohan grounded the bullets, letting the dust fall from his fist. The masked man started to panic. He wrapped his free arm around Ochacho's throat and pointed the gun to her head. Oh, yeah? What about her? She bulletproof too? Uraraka. Stay back or I'll blow her head off, he cried. I'll do it. Gohan's fists clenched, frustrated. Damn it, I should have taken him out when I had the chance, he cursed himself. His teeth gritted as the thug began to back off. Gotta think of something fast. Follow us, and something bad will happen to her. Ochako strained as the barrel of the gun dug into her temple. She complied, moving backwards with him as she thought of a strategy. The only thing she could do was activate her quirk and hope that the thug would be caught off guard enough time so that Gohan could get to him before he had time to pull the trigger. It was a risk, but it was all that she could think of right now. The thug took a step back off the sidewalk and onto the road. The uneven ground threw him off balance just slightly, but that was all that Ochako needed. She leaned back against the thug, adding her weight to his and pushing him off balance, then she quickly brought up her open palms against his meaty arm. With a white flash, the man was floating. Ochako lifted the weightless man with all of her strength and sent him floating up into the sky. What the hell? He yelped. Put me down, you little bitch. He aimed the gun down at Ochako and fired off 3 rounds, but Gohan appeared on top of her protectively, catching the 3 shots in his hand. Leave her alone, he roared, launching himself like a missile towards the floating thug. Release. Ochako clapped her hands together. The thug fell from the sky and Gohan caught him by the leg, spinning him around so fast that it sent the man flying away, out of the city towards Dagoba Beach. The whole encounter had taken less than 3 minutes and Gohan could hear the wail of police sirens closing in. With all of the thugs defeated, Gohan levitated down to where Ochako was waiting for him, breathlessly. Uraraka, that was amazing, Gohan said. I told you your quirk was so cool. Ochako ran up to him and hugged him tightly, burying her face into his chest. Gohan. That was so scary, she sobbed. Gohan was taken aback by her tears at first, but slowly he placed his arms around the crying girl's shoulders and comforted her. She was absolutely terrified, but acted so bravely in the heat of the moment. This girl is so cool. I told you, already, didn't I? I've got you. Gohan held her until the police arrived and took the remaining thugs away. They questioned Gohan and Ochako extensively, but when they determined that they had acted in self-defense, they let them go home. Well, at least they didn't get our food, Ochako joked, wiping her reddened eyes as Gohan walked her up to her apartment door. That would have really made me angry, Gohan said, handing her the bags of food. Thanks, Gohan. Thank you for saving me and for all of this food. You have no idea how much this helps. Don't mention it, Gohan smiled. And hey, as far as I see it, you saved me too, back then. Ochako smiled sheepishly and a silence fell between them that only lasted for a moment. Well, okay, good, the two paused, catching themselves, and Gohan smiled at her. Well, see you in the entrance exams? Yeah, Uraraka leaned against her door. See you there. Let's do our best. Gohan nodded. Cool. Good night, Urara-chan. Urara-chan, good night. Just Gohan, she said shyly, slipping into her apartment and closing the door. He's so cool, she said to herself as she closed the door. Urara-chan, she kept saying to herself with a giggle, putting the food away. Urara-chan. She's so cool, Gohan said to himself with a crooked smile as he floated up into the sky. The aura around him brightened and he blasted off at full speed towards Namek. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis. Izuku Midoriya's hands were bloody and calloused, but he refused to give up. Over the past 10 months he had been working hard to clean Dagoba Beach Park of all the debris that people had illegally dumped. He pushed against the mud, dragging a rusty safe behind him up the shoreline. Come on, young Midoriya, the giant man squatting on top of the safe encouraged. Put your back into it. You only have 3 more weeks until the exam. Or did you think you could start slacking off now? Midoriya was too tired to respond, but he shook his head and kept pulling. Suddenly, there was a strange noise coming straight for them from above, like a sonic boom or the sound of thunder clapping. Midoriya let go of the rope and glanced up into the night sky. The noise got closer and became a clear yell. Ah! The next moment, a person fell from the heavens, landing in the cold beach waters. Holy woe! Midoriya yelped. All Might, I think that was a person just now. All Might jumped off the vault. Oh, crap. I think you're right. Stay here. All Might leapt into the air and plunged into the cold waters. Suddenly, there was an explosion of water and the man was thrown out, landing at Midoriya's feet. Are you all right, sir? Midoriya asked, worriedly, helping the coughing man up. The waters roared again and All Might jumped out, landing in front of the thug. Ah. Fear not, citizen. Hope has arrived, because I am here. The masked thug looked up in between coughs and his eyes widened when he saw All Might. All Might. Hell no. I am never coming back to this crazy town. The man scrambled to his feet and ran away, leaving Midoriya and All Might blinking at each other in confusion. It took Gohan less than 45 minutes to reach Papaya Island. To his surprise, there was a much taller building that had been built atop the original building. The shape of the building was like a wineglass, semicircular with a thin tower leading back down. The representation of a dragon snaked around the column and all the way to the top of the tower. It really was a marvel to behold. As he approached it, Gohan saw Nail standing in the balcony and he flew in and landed next to him. Made it, he said, cheerfully. Nail turned and gazed at him, alarmed. And who are you supposed to be? He said. This is private property. Leave or I'll call security. Hey, relax Nail, Gohan brought his hands up. Why are you acting like you don't know me? Nail's antennae twitched inquisitively. I'm not Nail, he said. What? Then who, Gohan? The actual Nail called out as he turned the corner. You finally made it. Where have you been? Making some new friends, and kicking some ass, he said earnestly. You're fighting already? Nail groaned. I knew I shouldn't have let you out of my sight. Hey. Gohan held his hands up. In my defense, they tried to take my food. You're absolutely hopeless. Nail rubbed his temples, tiredly. Well, I see you've met my son. He's about your age, too. Your son? Oh, that's right. Gohan bowed respectfully at the identical green young man. Hi, my name is Gohan. What's your name? Slowly the young green man's suspicious mask peeled off. Hello, I'm Dend. Nail placed a proud hand on his son's shoulder. Dent here's the president of the new Namek housing project. We try to help homeless Namekians get back up on their feet by helping them find jobs, acquire new skills, and have a warm meal and a roof over their heads every night. Not the most glamorous job, but a rewarding one. And a necessary one, Dent said, quietly. So, Gohan. It looks like Uncle Piccolo wants us to work for you now. Gohan was taken aback. What do you mean? He said. Well, he had us build this place just for you, the future dragon of Namek. Welcome to your new home, your humble abode, your personal fortress of solitude, welcome to the lookout. Nail? Gohan stepped back. Did you know about this? And what's with the lofty title? Of course we knew. Piccolo wanted you to have every tool available to you so that you can succeed. While you trained and studied on Mount Paozu, we've been setting you up with connections that will help you along your path to becoming a hero. Who do you think submitted your schoolwork and got everything you needed to apply for the UA entrance exams? So think of this as your home for now, and one day hopefully it will also serve as your hero headquarters. And as far as the Dragon of Namek, well, that's an old Namekian legend. I'll tell you about it another time. Wow, Gohan whistled. Talk about a 5-year plan, huh? Nail smiled, putting his hands in his pockets. Don't say we never did anything for you, brat. Now go get comfortable. And get some rest, it's late. Please follow me to your quarters. Dent led Gohan down the hall into the master bedroom. Whoa, this room's got everything, doesn't it? Gohan marveled at the large room. In his closet, he found replica suits of his hero costume as well as his Namekia GI. All courtesy of Capsule Corp, Dent said. The room contained a large television screen along the wall, as well as its own bathroom and a huge computer off to the side. I'm sure that as time goes by, we'll be able to add any additional amenities you might need, but for now, you have all of the basics. A bed and a refrigerator is all I need, Gohan joked. But seriously, thanks Dent. You've all done an amazing job and I hope I can repay you all for your hard work. Dent allowed himself a smile. Great. Well, my office will always be open. Just call me if you need anything. With that, Dent left and Gohan showered and jumped onto bed. It was the first time he had laid down on an actual bed in almost a year. Within a few seconds, he was snoring under the covers. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Gohan's eyes slowly opened at the thump. The sunshine poured from the window straight onto Gohan's face, although it hadn't seemed to Gohan like he had been asleep for too long. He glanced over at the digital clock on the wall. 3:30 a.m. Then, Gohan blinked and pushed himself up, walking over to the large window of his room. He rubbed his eyes and that's when he saw it. A large apartment complex a few streets down has engulfed in flames. Gohan quickly pulled some clothes on and made his way down to Dent's office, barefooted. Dent, who was still awake, was watching it all unfold on the large monitor, horrified at the great blaze. Dent, what's going on? Gohan said, groggily. There was a series of great explosions just moments ago. I'm trying to find out what caused them, but for now, all we know is that the fires are too big and the building's about to collapse. I've notified the nearest hero agency, but they can't get to the people trapped on the top floor. Gohan, I know you're supposed to be resting right now, but we've got to do something. Dent turned in his chair, but Gohan was already gone. Gohan. Watching the fires rise in the distance, Gohan slipped his boots on, the tough, yet comfortable Namekian leather firmly gripping his ankles. Another explosion rocked the street and he jumped towards the balcony of the room, ready to take off. Wait, Gohan. Gohan turned to see Dent running towards him, catching up to him on the balcony. I've got to do something, Dent. Gohan pushed past him. Please don't try to stop me. I know, and I'm going to help. Here, Dent handed Gohan the device that he had found along with his father's hero outfit in Mount Paozu. I never had the chance to even use this thing, Gohan said, taking the scouter from Dent. Any idea what it even is? When we plugged it into our system, it came back as an old prototype communication device from Capsule Corp. Patent name, Scouter, he said. When we tested it, we found out it has many functions, including X-ray mode, night vision, and a two-way communicator. We'll have time to study it further later, but right now, I figured it can help you rescue the people trapped in the building. Gohan took the device and placed it on his ear. The tiny green screen that covered his left eye lit up with data and images. The feed from the communicator is encrypted and transmitted directly to me, so I'll be able to help you from here. Gohan nodded, thumbing through the settings of the Scouter. Okay, he said. Are you ready? Let's do this. The rush of wind tugged against Gohan's long hair as he flew down towards the burning building. The closer he got, the more apparent it became that the building was on the verge of collapsing. From up here, Gohan could see the fire rescue crews and heroes working hard to get people out from the lower levels. Large water cannons targeted the higher levels of the blaze, but the fire refused to die down. As he ascended to the skies, the scouter beeped a single, sharp tone, indicating an incoming transmission. Gohan, this is Dend. Can you hear me? Loud and clear, Dend. Great. Go ahead and tap on the large button on the side of the scanner to begin the scanning process. It will guide you through the safest point of entry to the building. Gohan pressed the button and immediately the screen began to scan the building, drawing up a spinning 3D model of the building. There were a lot of areas that were just barely clinging on to each other by a couple of support beams, but there was one area on the south side of the building that blinked blue. Scan complete. Okay, the safest way inside seems to be through the back wall. The scouter will guide you there. Be careful, Gohan. I'm seeing a lot of trapped bodies down there. Got it, thanks. The scouter lit up with a highlighted flight path through the city and Gohan swung around and followed it. As he passed over the side of the building, the scouter signaled about a dozen or so bodies still trapped in the blaze. He tapped the mode button on the scouter and the screen switched to EMT mode, which highlighted the bodies in the rubble and displayed their vital signs. Other than elevated heart rates and raised anxiety levels, most had steady vitals. A couple were completely unconscious. His eyes landed on a small body. Oh, no. There's a baby down there. Hang in there, everybody, I'm coming. Gohan swerved around the corner of the building and crossed his arms over his face as he flew through the window. The next instant, he crashed through, landing into a roll and sliding to a stop. The fire was intense. A thick black curtain hung like a veil across the halls, blurring his vision. Gohan instinctively brought the Namekian scarf up to cover the bridge of his nose. He thumbed the scouter into X-ray mode to give him the location of the closest body. The scouter beeped and to his surprise, there already was a small group of people in the lobby. The group was startled by his sudden entrance. Whoa, what was that? Is he a pro? Is that Endeavor? Are you here to rescue us? A frightened young woman asked. I'm going to get you all out of here, Gohan said. We tried going down the stairs but the fire has consumed the lower levels, we're trapped. Okay, Gohan said, thinking. We'll find another way out of here. Does anybody have any flying or water-based quirks we can use right now? I can control the moisture in the air, a man in the back said, if there was any. My quirk lets me weld things together, a second man said. And I can create brief gusts of wind with mine, the young woman said. Okay, Gohan racked his brain for ideas. Okay, I got it. He raised his arms, palms out, and shot several blasts of energy that destroyed every window in the lobby. Miss, I need you to get some fresh air flowing in. And as you do, the gentleman with the moisture quirk can help try to elevate the moisture level that the new breeze brings in. That should help make it breathable in here, at least. Okay, got it. Everyone else, Gohan said, picking up a piece of wood. Start gathering things we can use to build walls and weld them together. Anything to keep the roof from collapsing in on top of us. What about you? I'm going to go look for the others who are stuck in their apartments. Don't worry, as long as we work together and help each other, we're going to get out of this building alive. I promise. Everyone got to work on the tasks Gohan had given them and he dove through the black smoke that clouded the hall. The scouter beeped, highlighting a body nearby. Down the hall, first door on the right. One body was trapped underneath a support beam. Gohan slammed through the door with his shoulder and ran over to the body, lifting the burning frame off of the man underneath. Who's there? The man asked, frightened. Easy, Gohan said, placing the burning debris aside. I'm here to rescue you. To Gohan's relief, the man wasn't unconscious. After a few seconds of digging, he reached the large man underneath. The man opened his large eyes to see his rescuer. Thank goodness, I'm saved, he cried. Come on, let's get you out of here, Gohan said, lifting the beam off of him and extending a hand. The man reached up to take it, his dark skin glistening with the glow of the fire around him. Suddenly, another explosion rocked the building, tilting it to the side and the floor underneath began to crumble. No. Gohan dropped the beam and jumped forward, but he wasn't fast enough. The floor caved in sideways and everything, including the man, fell through to the fire below. Damn it. Gohan yelled. He had been so close to saving the terrified man's life. And suddenly, with a brief but bright flash of light, the man slowly floated back up to where Gohan was. Gohan stared, amazed. The man was laying on the mattress of his bed, light emanating from his hands, making the mattress float. Wow, is that your power, sir? Gohan said, helping the man climb off of the mattress and onto solid ground. The man's quirk deactivated and the mattress tumbled back down into the hole in the room. Yes, the man dusted himself down and wiped his face with his shirt. My quirk lets me turn solid objects into flying vehicles, so long as they are sturdy enough to support my weight. That's a useful quirk, Gohan said. Do you think we can use it to rescue your neighbors? Yes, the man nodded. That had been my intent when the fires first started, but unfortunately I was pinned down under the rubble back there. Great, Gohan said, moving forward and thumbing through his scouter. We could definitely use a quirk like yours right now. We're cut off from the mid-levels of the building, so the only way we're getting out of this floor is by flying out. But first, we have to gather everyone from this floor at the lobby. Why don't you get everyone and I'll start looking for things I can use my quirk on? The man said. Gohan nodded. He was clearly the stronger of the two and it would probably be better to split up at this point. He had to trust that the man was going to stay true to his word and help. Sounds like a plan, Gohan said. Some of your neighbors are already gathered at the lobby. Maybe you can help them out when you get there. I will. Great. I'm Gohan, by the way. What's your name? Popo, the man said, pulling a heavy lounge chair with him and heading towards the lobby. Okay, Mr. Popo, Gohan said, I'll be back soon. The two parted ways and Gohan dove back into the smoky halls and met with an elderly couple, the man dressed in his robes helping his wife through the smoke. What's going on? The old man asked, terrified. Gohan placed a comforting hand on the man's shoulder. There's a large fire in the lower level of the building, but don't be afraid, sir. We'll get you both out of here safely. Head to the lobby and Mr. Popo will help you. Gohan guided the couple back to the lobby. Stay low, he called out to them as he sent them ahead. When he was sure they made it to the lobby safely, he turned back and charged down the hall again. The further he got down the hall, the heavier the smoke became and Gohan began to cough violently. I have to do something about all of this smoke, he thought. If only. Dend. I'm here, Gohan. How sturdy do you think the roof is? His eyes ran alongside the ceiling. I'm looking at the scan from your scouter, and it's probably the only thing keeping the walls on your level from collapsing in. Why? Another explosion rocked the building. There just wasn't any time to think. Gohan had to do something now. He raised 2 fingers to the ceiling. Power glowed around his fingertips, but rather than emitting a large blast, Gohan focused the power into a spear. A small glowing orb of energy formed and Gohan aimed it at the ceiling. About a dozen quick blasts shot out like arrows, piercing several holes alongside the roof. Slowly, the smoke began to rise and seep out of the building through the holes, making it a little easier to see and breathe. Gohan, what was that? Dent called, frantically. The roof just exploded. We're fine, Gohan said, struggling to breath. Everything is under control. Be careful. Another blast like that and you'll bring the entire roof down. Gohan was too tired to respond. He gulped in a breath of air and wiped the sooty sweat from his forehead, beginning to feel the fatigue of the previous day. The adrenaline he had been running on was beginning to wane, but he couldn't stop now. There were still people trapped in their apartments, lives that he needed to save. Pushing himself forward, he thumbed this scouter again and scanned through the rooms. To his relief, the following 3 rooms were empty, but Gohan kicked down the doors just to make sure. Nothing. Okay, last 2 rooms and then I'm heading down to the next level. Through the scouter, he could see the 5 bodies in the next room, huddled together around the window at the end of the room. Gohan crouched under the smoke and made his way to the door. With a mighty kick, he tore down the secured metal door and stepped in through the smoke. The family consisted of a portly older man, and presumably his wife, and 3 young boys. They looked up at him, startled, and the boys called out to their father in a foreign language. It's going to be okay, Gohan told them, extending his arms out. Come with me. I'm going to get you out of here. The wife held the children back, shaking her head and talking to her husband in their native language. Gohan started to wonder if they even understood him, but the man gave his family a gentle push. One by one, the family exited the room. The mother wrapped scarves around the boys' mouths as they went through. Thank you, she said with an appreciative bow. Gohan smiled and nodded. Okay, is that everybody? He said, taking the smallest of the boys in his arms. Yes, the father replied. We all here now. Stay close to the ground and follow me. Another blast and the children cried in fear. What is causing all of these damn explosions? Hey, it's going to be okay. Gohan comforted the little boy in his arms. He pointed to the image in the boy's shirt. Is that All Might? He said. Is he your favorite hero? The boy nodded in tears. Yeah, he's so cool, isn't he? He's so brave and he always saves people with a smile. I'm sure he's on his way right now to save you. But right now, you have to be brave, too, okay? I promise, everything is going to be okay. Gohan led the family down the hall towards the lobby, where Mr. Popo was helping the elderly couple onto a legless marble table. You're our hero, Mr. Popo, the older woman said. Mr. Popo gave them a reassuring smile. You'll be safe soon, he told them. Just hold on tight. He touched the table, activating his quirk. Slowly, the table levitated and gently exited the window of the lobby, floating slowly down the 16 stories of the building and landing safely on the ground. Another family safe. Good. Gohan sighed in relief. This way, he motioned to the family behind him, bringing them to the lobby next to Mr. Popo. Everyone that had been standing in the lobby when he first arrived had been lowered to the ground by Mr. Popo, except for the young woman with the wind gust quirk and the man with the moisture quirk. The young woman ran up to Gohan and took the child in her arms. Hey, she said to him. We've gotten almost everyone from this level out of here. Great. Gohan patted her in the shoulder. You two did great. But now it's time to get you to safety. What about you? The man with the moisture quirk axe, palm still glowing with his quirk. I've got one more room to check and then I'll be heading to the lower level. Don't worry, we'll be fine. Mr. Popo. Mr. Popo looked up at him. After you help these two down, get out of here. I'll meet you down on the ground. Popo nodded and Gohan dashed away. Wait, I never got to ask you your name, but he was already gone. Gohan followed the scouter to the very end of the hall and smashed through the door. This was by far the biggest of the apartments, as it was easily 2 or 3 times larger. The smoke was everywhere here and Gohan had to rely solely on the scouter as he approached the tiny body in his display. The door was locked and Gohan slammed against it with his shoulder. Ow! Gohan winced. He was getting noticeably weaker. He threw himself against the door again and this time the door gave way. The little girl had locked herself inside a large walk-in closet. Gohan quickly scanned the rest of the apartment, but there was nobody else in any of its 6 bedrooms. From out here, he could hear the sobs of a little girl inside the closet. Her vitals came back normal. She is terrified, but at least she's not hurt, Gohan sighed in relief. He tore down the closet door and there, curled up in a ball was a little girl, about 6 years old with long brown hair, hazel eyes and a yellow dress. Oni-san. The girl cried, but when she saw that it was Gohan, she retreated deeper into the closet, scared. It's okay, honey, Gohan said, extending his arms out to her. You're safe. We're going to find your big sister, okay. Where is she? Is she here? The girl shook her head apprehensively. Oni-san said she was going out to buy some medicine, but she hasn't returned and now there's fire everywhere. Okay, well, how about we wait for her in the lobby? I'm sure she's worried sick about you. The girl's sobbing quieted a bit and she nodded. Don't worry about a thing, Gohan said, reaching out to her and taking her in his arms. I've got you. The little girl wrapped her tiny legs around Gohan's waist and he held onto her firmly, making his way across the large room. The fire had already started to creep up to the door of the bedroom, causing chunks of wood and debris to come crashing down around them. The little girl screamed and buried her face in Gohan's chest. It's okay, Gohan shushed her. It's okay, we're okay. He looked around the room, his eyes resting on the letters that decorated the girl's wall. Valise, he said. Valise, is that your name? Valise nodded, tears flowing down her blackened cheeks. That's a pretty name, Valise, Gohan said, trying to calm the child down while looking for a way out at the same time. The scouter's X-ray showed a hollowed wall to his right and with a blast from his left hand, he tore a hole through it. The next room was a kitchen. What deserts do you like, Valise? Gohan kept trying to distract the girl from the loud explosions he was causing with his blasts. We're almost out of here. Meringue macarons, she said. Wow, Gohan thought. A child of culture. I'm a softie for soft-served myself, Gohan said as he kicked through the rubble that had blocked the path back to the hall. Vanilla ice cream on a waffle cone, for me. What's ice cream? She said, innocently. You've seriously never had ice cream before? Gohan asked incredulously as they made it back out into the hall. Well, when your big sister gets back, I'll have to treat you to it, okay? Okay. The girl wiped her tears and smiled up at him sweetly. Thank you for rescuing me, Oni-san. You're my hero. Gohan smiled at the little girl. Okay, she's the last person on this level. Now I just have to. Suddenly the building began to shudder and sway. The ground opened up ahead and the cracks snaked up to where they were standing. Den's panicked voice boomed over the scouter. Gohan. The level is coming down. Get out of there now. Gohan ran forward as the entire level began to cave in. Valise screamed in his arms as the roof came down with it. Gohan leapt forward into flight, but a large rock landed on his head. He grunted as he and Valise both tumbled down the crack and into the burning inferno below. Gohan barely managed to stay conscious long enough to hold Valise protectively against the falling debris. The next moment they landed and everything became dark. Gohan? Come in, can you hear me? Gohan. The earpiece was deafening and Gohan groaned against the ringing in his ears. He felt a wet streak running down the side of his forehead. Oni-san, Valise was sobbing and gently nudging him. Please wake up. Valise? Gohan's eyes slowly opened and he pushed himself up into a sitting position. Are you hurt, sweetheart? I'm okay, she said, a worried look coming over her eyes, but you're bleeding. Just a scratch. Gohan wiped the blood away with his scarf. Dend, what just happened? Where are we? You're in hell, hero, a voice boomed. The fire around them blazed and Gohan instinctively put himself between Valise and the tall figure in the shadows. The fire grew higher and the blaze illuminated the figure. He was tall and lanky, standing like a carefree drunk. His white hair appeared unharmed by the fires, and there was a feral cruelty in the man's bright blue eyes. Isn't it lovely? The man swung his hands and ferocious waves of fire burst out from his palms, causing another massive explosion. So you're the one responsible for this. Gohan gritted his teeth. Why are you doing this? Why? The man smiled. The rich and the decadent just happen to be good fuel for my fire. Gohan. Dend was yelling over the scouter. His power level is rising exponentially. You have to get out of there now. He matches the description of the villain that burned an entire forest village to the ground. Let a pro handle him. Get out now. You know, my old man is a hero, too. He wears the title like a name. All of my life, I wanted to be a hero just like him. But you know what happened when he saw that I could never be the perfect little hero he had envisioned? He cast me out. That's when I learned the truth. What truth? Gohan growled. The villain gave him a chilling grin. This hero society is rotten. I'm going to burn it down with my flames. But first, I'm going to show the world what a perfect little weapon my father created. No, Gohan said, bringing his fists up. I am going to stop you. Gohan jumped forward, fist flying through the air, and missed. The villain dodged and backflipped away. A fireball formed in each of his fists and he struck Gohan on the side of the face. Gohan grunted against the heat, but refused to run away. He pressed forward and flipped, bringing his heel down against the guy's head. The blow caught him off guard and he staggered back. Gohan took advantage of the misfooting and pressed forward, but the villain again slipped away, shooting fireballs at Gohan. At the last instant, Gohan dodged the balls, which collided against the wall and shook the building. Gohan growled in frustration. Every time he got closer to the villain blasted a new wave of fire towards him and he was forced to retreat. It was a total stalemate, and Gohan knew that he was losing valuable time. The villain seemed to sense this because he came to a stop, breathlessly. All you so-called heroes are so self-righteous and overconfident. I bet you told yourself you were going to save them all when you got here. The fires grew even larger, casting away all shadows. Do you think they heard you saving their neighbors upstairs and thought for a second that they might be getting out of here alive? How sad, only for you to fail them in the end. Gohan's eyes widened. The entire lower floor was littered with charred bodies. What have you done? All of those explosions were people you failed to save, hero. The villain smiled cruelly. No, Gohan's hands balled into fists. No, you're lying. I'm going to save them. He thumbed the scouter, and the pit in his stomach grew. There were no longer any signs of life in the building. Everyone was gone. Gohan's teeth bared and he began to tremble uncontrollably. You bastard, he growled, enraged. You killed them? Now you're starting to get it, kid, the villain said, relaxing his posture. You heroes are all fake and rotten to the core. I'll show everyone that hero society. Gohan was a blur that appeared in front of the man. Before the man could even register what was happening, Gohan's fist had sunken deep into his abdomen. The shock and force sent the slender man flying through 3 walls with a blood-curdling scream. The man finally stopped, slamming against a 4th wall. He fell forward onto his knees, coughing up blood. He looked up, raising a hand to blast fire at Gohan, only to see the purple blur of Gohan's knee flying up, connecting with his chin. The man howled with the blow, his nose shattering. He raised his hand and this time, a fireball shot out of his palm. Go to hell, he yelled, but Gohan dodged the flames and grabbed the man's wrist, twisting it into an unnatural position. With a dry, disgusting thud, the bone slipped out of its position and the man howled in pain. You don't deserve to live. Gohan's voice had become a predatory purr. The man's cocky demeanor had completely dropped, replaced by a mask of anger and bewilderment. Backing up, he raised his good hand and instead of a fireball, he attacked with a steady stream of flames. I'll burn you alive, he roared. Oni-san. Valise cried as the flames engulfed Gohan. Gohan roared in rage and his power exploded. A white aura erupted from within him, covering his entire body and fending off the flames. The red sea of flames before Gohan parted and he slowly walked through them, completely unfazed by the fires, the white Namekian cape swaying with the rushing force of the fiery waves. The man backed up, a crazed look in his blue eyes, until his back hit a wall. His eyes were wide with fear, recognizing that he had met with an unstoppable force. Enraged, the villain intensified his attacks, the red flame slowly turning blue. Gohan noticed that the skin on the villain's arms was beginning to char and suddenly realized that the overuse of his own quirk was killing him. I'm ending this now. Lifting a hand, he charged his energy into an orb. The blue light outshined even the flames around him, casting a blinding blue light. The energy blast flew from Gohan's palm and struck the villain in the remaining good arm, crushing it. The man screamed again and the wall of flames finally ceased. He collapsed, his back against the wall as Gohan raised a hand. Another blue ball of energy formed around his hands and he aimed it at the villain. The villain's eyes stared into oblivion, and then the power dissipated and completely vanished. I'm turning you into the authorities, Gohan said through gritted teeth. You're going to pay for what you did tonight. Across the hall, Gohan saw Mr. Popo gliding down on top of the carpet. Extending his arms, he helped little Valise climb up. The villain started to cackle and Gohan turned to see flames gathering around the fingers of the villain's broken hand. The authorities? You do realize they will blame you for what happened here tonight, don't you? They will look for you. They will hate you, because you're not playing the game on their terms. And so you thought you'd be a hero tonight, but you'll just be another scapegoat for the hero's failure tonight. You heroes are always so distracted by your own arrogance and self-righteousness, the villain laughed. This is why you'll always lose. Blue fire, hotter and much more intense, exploded from his broken hand and missed Gohan. Gohan turned and saw that the villain had not been aiming at him. The blast was intended to kill Valise and Mr. Popo. Popo covered Valise protectively from the fire, holding her tightly as the carpet began to fly upwards towards safety. Suddenly, Gohan was in front of them, power charging at his fingertips. With a slashing movement, the ki blast shot out like a sword, cutting through the flames and slashing at the ground around the villain. With that, the level beyond the slash began to crumble down. The slim villain started to tumble down to his death, but managed to grab onto a guardrail at the last moment. Gohan turned to leave, but a twinge of guilt tugged at him. Even though the villain deserved everything he got for what he had done, Gohan simply couldn't just walk away and let him die in the collapsing building. He returned one last time and extended a hand to the villain. The villain looked panicked, holding himself onto a handrail by one arm. Gohan saw his eyes narrow as he reached out for him. Give me your hand, he called. Infuriated, the villain's eyes and body began to glow blue. He swung his hand forward to unleash another wave of fire and suddenly the handrail gave out. The villain screamed, consumed by his own fire as he tumbled all the way down the 13 remaining floors. One final explosion ripped through the building and the building itself started to collapse. Gohan didn't have time to feel sorry for the villain, whose body had become entirely consumed by his own blue flames. Turning, he blasted off at full speed towards the exit. Gohan. The entire building is collapsing. Rubble fell and blocked the exit, but Gohan plowed right through the rocks and made it to the next floor, where Popo and Valise were about to be crushed by a falling boulder. Before they could blink, Gohan had them in his arms, blasting off until suddenly they passed through the black veil of smoke and were flying into the clear night sky. They were rising higher, 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 and suddenly, Gohan's fatigue gave way. He just didn't have the strength to go on anymore. Slowly, they began to fall down towards the ground, and the next instant, Mr. Popo's carpet caught them. As the carpet lowered them to the ground below, Gohan stared in exhaustion at the building that had now come down, completely leveled, and the words that the villain had just told him rang in his ears. They will blame you for what happened here tonight. They will look for you. They will hate you, because you're not playing the game on their terms. I tried so hard to save everyone, and I ended up letting everyone down. Gohan lowered his head against the carpet, exhausted. The carpet landed on the ground and Gohan pulled himself up, weakly. Oni-san. Valise called and ran from the carpet. A slender young woman with fiery orange hair ran towards them, picking up the little girl in her arms tightly. Valise, she cried. Valise, I can't believe it, I thought I'd lost you. Oni-san. Valise cried. Don't ever leave me alone like that again. I won't, I promise. How did you make it out? Valise pointed at Gohan and Mr. Popo. Oni-san saved me, she said. The young woman approached Gohan and pulled him into a hug that he had not expected. Thank you so much for saving my sister, the girl said. I apologize for putting you all in this situation. I wasn't feeling well, so I had to step out to the pharmacy and then, her eyes teared up. Gohan placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. It's okay. Now, he said. Everything is going to be. Suddenly his world started to spin. Oni-san? Oni-san? And his world went dark. Hang in there, Gohan. You're going to be fine. When Gohan woke up, he was surprised to find himself in his bed back in the lookout. He turned and noticed Den's hands holding onto his abdomen, deep in concentration. White waves of energy flowed out towards him. When he was done, Gohan felt incredibly strong and well rested. So that's your quirk, Dend. Cell regeneration, yes, Dend said. Gohan, Gohan, Gohan. I told you to be careful. You almost got yourself killed out there. Gohan sighed. I know, I'm sorry. Dend breathed in and out, exasperated. But still, that was pretty cool. Gohan gave him a tired smile. Tell me, Dend, he said. The few people that made it outside, did they? Everyone made it to safety, thanks to you, Mr. Popo said, bringing Gohan a glass of water. Mr. Popo? You saved me. You saved us all back there with your amazing quirk. I'm the one that should be thanking you. Mr. Popo smiled and bowed. You saved my life. I felt that I needed to repay that debt. Where will you go now? Gohan asked, sitting up. Mr. Popo shrugged. I was born in that apartment, grew up and grew old there. I don't really have anywhere else to go. But, Gohan said, don't you have any kids or family that can help you out? No, Mr. Popo's glance fell. I do not. I suppose I'm now, what do they call it? Homeless. Oh no, 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 Dend, can't we do something for him? I owe this man my life. Absolutely, Dend said. Mr. Popo, is it? Don't you worry. You stay here with us for as long as you need and you'll never have to worry about needing anything ever again. Mr. Popo's smile widened. I'll think about it, he said, sheepishly. It will be fun. Gohan said. You and Dend will get along great. You'll be my two guardians. Again, Mr. Popo bowed. Thank you, both, he said. Guardian, Dend brushed his chin. I like the sound of that. That could be your hero call sign, Gohan said, excitedly. You'll need one if you're going to help me do more of these hero rescue op. Piccolo entered the room with a grim expression. Gohan, Piccolo said sternly. I thought I told you to stay here and rest. I'm rested, Gohan said, innocently. Piccolo grunted, annoyed. He reached over and switched the screen on the wall on. Street fight that was captured around 8 p.m. last night, the reporter was saying. A Musutafu apartment building's CCTV caught part of the scene, when a superpowered teenager overpowered 5 criminals. Care to explain yourself? Piccolo scolded. Hey, they were trying to hurt my friend. I know you, kid. You don't have any friends, and they were trying to steal my food. So you got cocky and wanted to show off in front of the pretty girl, is that it? Come on, Piccolo, a red flush washed over the bridge of Gohan's nose. Gohan. Piccolo always had that ability to make him freeze in his tracks. I'm not saying you can't use your powers to help others. That's the very essence of being a hero. But you can't just go charging in without a plan. That's how your father died. Gohan stared down at his fists. That's how things like this happen. Gohan looked up at the screen to see footage of the burning apartment building. 32 people lost their lives in the blaze last night. Eyewitnesses say that just before the building collapsed, the same individual attempted to enter the building before the pro-heroes could arrive. He is not a criminal, an eyewitness was saying. Gohan recognized her as the girl with the windgust quirk. He saved me. He saved us all. We would have been dead if it weren't for him. There was a villain out there, causing the fires, and this young man saved us all from him. Other residents were not so understanding. My father was up on the 8th floor. The heroes almost got to him, but he was killed in the explosion that the villain and this vigilante caused during their fight. This is exactly why amateurs need to leave the rescuing to the pros. My father would still be alive if it weren't for this punk. Gohan hanged his head low. I tried, Piccolo, he said, his hand tightening into a fist. I really tried to save them all, but I wasn't strong enough. Piccolo sighed. Gohan, he said, lowering his tone. I told you, you have the potential to be the most powerful being in the universe. And I have faith that one day, you will be. What happened last night is something that happens to all heroes. You cannot save everyone every time. But this is why you can't let your emotions get the better of you. You need to keep your rage in check. With a calm mind, you must always have a plan before you act, otherwise you'll just be putting more lives at risk. But you did do something right, something that made me very proud. Look. Felice had the microphone now. Oni-san saved me, she was saying. I never got the chance to thank him. Oni-san, I'm alive because of you. You're my hero. I don't care what anybody says, okay. The man with the weld quirk was saying. That boy risked his life again and again for us, he is a damn hero. He saved my all family, the family man was saying. He keep my boys safe even when they scared. Gohan teared up and smiled when the little boy with the All Might shirt waved at the camera in the back. That boy is hero. I've lived in Namek all of my life, the elderly man was saying with tears in his eyes. I've seen the crime in this city go from bad to worse over the years. There ain't enough goodness in the world these days. But this young man gave me hope that, well, that maybe there's still a little good out there. Your heroism has inspired others, Gohan. That is what this symbol stands for. Piccolo proudly pointed at the sigil of the Dragon Clan on Gohan's chest. A symbol of hope and self-sacrificing heroism. The symbol of the legend of the Porunga, the Dragon of Namek. A few days later, Gohan stood atop a pillar overlooking the city of Namek. The scouter beeped and he quickly took off to stop the bank robbery being committed down below. Porunga was a wise and powerful dragon that wished to gift the ancient Namekians with the desires of their hearts, so he told them that he would grant any 3 wishes that they made to him. But Porunga did not know of the evil within the hearts of some Namekians, who had been overcome with a desire to dominate their world. A disagreement broke out between the Ancient Ones, regarding what 3 wishes to make, so Porunga made a deal with them. With the help of Grand Elder Guru, Porunga crafted 7 beautiful orbs called Dragon Balls, and cast them across the unknown regions of the land and told them that whoever gathered the 7 Dragon Balls would have their wishes granted. A purple blur shot up towards the sky like a rocket, intercepting a falling passenger plane. With all of his strength, he carried the plane down to the ground safely, but when the pro-heroes arrived, Gohan was long gone. Everyone stared up in amazement. The Ancient Ones with wicked intent tried and tried again to find the Dragon Balls, but failed every single time. Only those who were of pure intent, tenacious and truly heroic could ever find them. In the docks of Dagobah Sea, a cargo ship carrying illegal drugs from Namek pulled into the harbor, but when the Musutafu police intercepted it, they found the drugs completely destroyed and all of the criminals tied up. Dragon, was all one of the criminals kept mumbling. It was the dragon. Namek in the modern day has become something of a melting pot these days, but those of us who descend from the Ancient Ones still remember the legend of Porunga. To us, the Dragon of Namek is a symbol of hope, tenacity, and heroism. That's what you'll become one day, Gohan. A beacon of hope for tomorrow. You will save them and in turn, you will inspire them to act heroically, even in the face of adversity. To help one another, you will become the Dragon of Namek. The ferocious typhoon slammed against the tiny shelter at the edge of Okinawa, blowing away houses and uprooting trees, but the volunteers refused to leave the Okinawans behind. Don't worry, Mama, a little girl was comforting her mother. He will come. I know he will. Of course he will. One of the volunteers wrapped a blanket around the arms of the woman and child. He will save us. The next day, the typhoon passed over them. When the volunteers came out of their shelter, they noticed that all of the debris had landed just around the shelter. They had been spared. I told you he'd come. The girl flashed a toothy smile at her mother. As Gohan left Okinawa, the aura around him brightened and he blasted away at full speed back towards Namek. After several weeks of digging up bodies from the destroyed apartment building, the heroes had found the charred remains of the villain. Hey, Chief. A worker called his supervisor over. We got another one. Just tag him and bag him. The man walked over disinterested at first, but when he saw the villain's face, his eyes widened. Oh my God, he said. Is that who I think it is? The body was never reported to the authorities. Not officially, anyway. Instead, it was secretly transported to discreet location, where extensive life-saving measures were taken and at last, the villain's eyes opened weakly. He's awake, the nurse said, excitedly. Let me see him, another voice said. The villain slowly opened his eyes. I'm alive, but how? He stood up from his bed to find himself in a dimmed ICU room, though this was no regular hospital. He recognized it. He was in one of his father's agency's secret outposts. The villain gritted his teeth when he recognized the second voice. He was a sidekick from his father's agency. Your father has been looking all over for you, the sidekick was saying. Luckily, somebody reported you to us instead of going to the media. We're going to sit tight and let this all fall on that so-called dragon hero. Don't worry, everything. The sidekick's ambitions were cut short. The next moment, his blood had stained the villain's hospital gown and face. The villain's eyes widened as a sword-wielding creature pounced from the shadows and killed every last person in the room. When it was all done, the creature stood up in the shadows. Are you going to kill me, too? The villain asked. The creature stood silent for a moment, its back turned to him. This world, with its false heroes, the creature hissed in a snake-like whisper, is deformed and stained. I will cleanse it. With that, the creature vanished into the shadows. The villain, barely alive, his charred skin held together by staples and now baptized in the blood of his enemies, stood up from the bed with new purpose. The last bit of humanity that still remained in him had died, cremated along with his body that fateful night. Even the hatred was gone. Now there was only purpose. A carefree smile stretched across his face, aching at the seams of the staples that held him together. Society had no idea what a monster it had just created. Yes, Dobby's voice was a whisper. This world is infected. My flames will consume it. Dragon hero, I'm coming for you. It had been the story that finally broke the internet. The world's first direct eyewitness account about the hero that social media had dubbed the Dragon. The story had been covered by the feisty HNA reporter, Kuri Shimamura, who had a knack for chasing down crazy stories like this. The super typhoon hadn't even fully left when she was already on her way to Okinawa to be the first to interview the eyewitnesses about how this mysterious hero engulfed in white light came down from the heavens and had saved the few people stranded in Okinawa. Some said he stayed long after the typhoon hit to help look for survivors, others said he disappeared as soon as daylight broke, and some had even said he had stopped the super typhoon itself with an energy blast from his bare hands. It wasn't the craziest thing that Taneo Tokuda had heard before. After 20 years of working alongside Conspiracy Kuri, he had heard every Bigfoot, alien, Illuminati, hell-worshipping, tyrannical government planning, mind control vaccine-inducing conspiracy theory out there. But of all the crazy stories that Kuri had somehow convinced him of following her after, there was none other like the story of the Blur, that mysterious vigilante that appeared out of thin air and saved people, disappearing back into thin air before anyone could even get a look at his face. For some 12 years, Taneo had followed Kuri as her cameraman from city to city, region to region across Japan and sometimes even abroad, chasing this mysterious Blur. Chasing the Blur had cost them everything: his reputation, his job and his marriage. But in the end, Kuri had been right. As much as he hated to admit it, she had been right. The Blur had been real. But they watched him die all those years ago, didn't they? And now this mysterious new hero just pops out of thin air, same MO, similar style of clothing, similar powers. So it was no surprise when Kuri had sent him a letter requesting to meet with him. It had been almost 8 years since he last saw her, but he simply had no choice but to agree to meet her. If anything else, for old time's sake. Ganguro Cafe. So this place is still standing after all these years, huh? Kuri always did like those damn lattes. Taneo sighed and entered the cafe. The air was instantly filled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and baked pastries. The soft jazz playing through the speakers mixed with the quiet conversations being held across the room. Taneo breathed it all in, feeling a rush of nostalgia swell within. He scanned through the small crowd until he spotted Kuri, sitting cross-legged in her usual spot, at the far end of the cafe. Her dark brown hair was tied into a ponytail that snaked elegantly down the side of her white collar shirt. She was as beautiful as the day he had first met her, almost 30 years ago. Taneo cleared his throat as he approached her. Kuri looked up at him from her notebook and smiled in her mischievous way, putting her pen down. "I had a feeling you'd like to meet up here," she said, taking a sip of her latte and leaning back against her folded navy blue jacket that she had draped over her chair. "Some things never change," Taneo said with a shrug. He removed his beige hat and took a seat opposite to her in the table. "Ever since we were 15-year-olds working for our school paper, you've been coming to the same old spot, reading the same old newspapers, writing in the same old notebooks, drinking the same old latte, chasing the same old conspiracies." "Not conspiracies," she corrected him, "conspiracy." Taneo heaved a heavy sigh. "Hi," he said with a charming smile. "You look great, Kuri. How've you been?" "Hey," Kuri smiled, closing the notebook and tucking it away in her bag. "Well, aside from losing my editor-in-chief gig, getting suspended for 3 months with no pay, 20% wage reduction, losing my late-night TV specials, getting demoted from a respected columnist to a reporter, who gets told what to report on, I'd say I've been doing okay." Taneo gave her a side look through his glasses. "Well, you did use HNA Network's funds to pay an 800,000 yen loan from a loan shark because you were so sure that the Sun family was related to the Blur. Hey, eyewitnesses said that the Sun kid was there on the day Advance Finance got attacked," Kuri protested. "And then you started stalking the poor family. How else was I supposed to get an interview? So much so, that they skipped town and threatened to sue us." Kuri slowly put her hands down. Well, yeah. I'll admit, I was a bit pushy. And then it turned out that the Sun kid was only 7 years old. I was sure he had an older brother though, and then, as if all of that weren't enough, Taneo said, lifting a finger sternly. "You sent my photo, my one good photo, the priceless original copy of the Blur shaking hands with All Might, the one you told me not to sell 7 years ago when it would have made us millionaires, to a hospital, where it was never seen again." Kuri flashed him an apologetic smile, a blush forming on her cheeks. "Yeah, I could have sworn I had another copy of it somewhere," she said with a high-pitched voice and a sheepish giggle. Taneo blinked at her, unimpressed. "Well, for what it's worth, at least you were able to keep your job," Taneo said dryly. Kuri suppressed a nervous laugh. "Oh, right, I never got to say sorry about that tan." Taneo waved his hand, finally dropping the stern look for a crooked smile. He sighed deeply. "Nah, don't be, I'm not that upset about it. Honestly, becoming a freelancer is the best thing that could have happened to me. I get to set my own schedule. No more sleepless nights, no more chasing storms or ghosts or conspiracies, no more death threats or running from wild animals or going into disaster zones. I get up at noon, take a few pictures of unsuspecting celebrities holding hands and then sell it to BuzzFeed or TMZ in my underwear from the comfort of home for $500 a pop. Like I said, best thing that could have happened to me. Yeah, that sounds pretty boring, Curry said, crossing her arms. You're too good to settle on being a glorified paparazzi, Tan. Why don't you leave all of it behind and come back with me? I could use a talented cameraman like you. If we work together again, I'm sure we can find. The story of the century. Taneo finished for her, leaning back on his seat. No offense, Curry. You're a great reporter. I mean that sincerely. But you've been saying that since we were 15 years old. We're in our 40s now. I'm just tired of chasing ghosts around, you know? Suddenly, they both looked up as a tall, slender young man with a thin goatee and a backwards hat approached them with a camera hanging from his neck and a plate of food in his hands. Hey, is this guy bothering you, boss? He said. Taneo's nose crinkled. Are you seriously eating chili dogs for breakfast? He said. No, Ginny, this is an old friend of mine, Curry reassured him. Tan and I go way back. He was my old cameraman, before you came along. Yeah. Let me guess, now that we broke the internet with the story of the dragon, you want back in? Well, that's not gonna happen. I'm the new camera boy in town. Hey, new camera boy, you're getting chili all over the lens, Taneo winked at him. Ah, damn it, Jin cursed, realizing that the camera hanging from his neck by a strap had been dangling all over his food plate. Turning around, he hurried away to clean the lens. Phew, Taneo whistled, leaning back on his seat. He is quite the character. You see what I'm working with, here? Curry sighed. Tan, I need you. We were the best news reporter team in Japan back in the day. I mean, who were the ones that broke the Blur story, remember? Back when everyone thought it was just another ghost story. And who were the ones that exposed the army of villains and the existence of All for One? Back when everyone, including the president, called it a crazy conspiracy theory. It was us. Conspiracy Curry and travel marker Tan. Troublemaker Tan, Taneo corrected her. Because I always took the blame when you messed up. With a sad giggle, he looked down at his hands for a moment, as if reliving an old memory. Slowly, his smile became a thin line and his eyes fell. After a quiet moment, he sighed and shook his head. Leaning over the table on his elbows, he picked himself up from his seat. Well, it was so nice to see you again, Curry, he said as he put his hat back on. We'll have to catch up another time. Thank you for the offer, but I'm not as young as I used to be. Being a boring old, glorified paparazzi is good enough for me. Taneo began to walk away but stopped, sighed and turned back around. Do you remember what the side effect of my quirk was, Curry? Photographic memory. For the 25 years that we worked together, my perfect memory was a blessing, until that day. I can still see them in my dreams, as clear as day, the Blur's deformed, lifeless body laying like a rag doll in a pool of his blood, the large hole in All Might's stomach, and that kid's white, haunted eyes. We both saw the Blur die that day almost 8 years ago, Curry. For your own good, please, bury the story already. We've lost enough because of it. Curry stared at her drink for a few moments, then looked up at him. I can't, she shook her head. Not yet, not when there's still so much of his story left to tell. She reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph, handing it to Taneo. It's not over yet, my friend. What's this? Taneo adjusted his glasses and squinted at the photograph. This is the real reason I asked you here today, Tan.